So welcome back. We are now going to be installing GAMXTD3 on Windows 10. Now what I've decided is I've booted up a VM here because I have a lot of GAM setups on my local computer, and I thought, why not? Let's add a VM into the mix. So it's a virtual machine, and I am actually, let's just see what I'm using here. I'm using Oracle VirtualBox, but you can use Hyper-V if you want, whatever floats your boat. Okay, so what we've got is we have got this instruction here. So how to install it, and this I'll leave down in the resources as well. And you just click on Windows over here, and it says this example assumes that XTD3s have been installed on your computer in C drive ADV-XTD3. If you go to another directory, then you have to use other directions. So what we're going to be doing is we're actually going to download it first. So right at the top over here, we're going to go to the downloads, and you can go to the GitHub Releases page. And if you scroll down over here, you get all of these. So I've got Windows x86, x86, and here's x86 64. You can either do the MSI or the zip version. I'm just going to do the MSI. It downloads about 22 megs. Okay, well, while I'm waiting for that to download, the only other thing I've done on this virtual machine is I've installed Chrome, I've logged into my admin of my Google Workspace, and everything else is completely clean. So let's now follow along. So we're going to click on that, and we're going to just install it. More info, and say run anyway. Okay, next, accept, next. This is what they're talking about where it was installed, and that's what they're talking about over here. So if you do want to change this, it's absolutely fine to change it, but please remember that when you change other things in this, when you do environment variables and things like that, that you are checking the right directory. Let's go into that one, and let's say install now. Let's push yes, and finish. So if we now open up your directories here and go to C drive, there we see GAMADV-XTD3, and there's a couple of things inside there. Okay, so we've done the first step. This is the working directory now, and we're going to be using GAMWork for the working directory. You shouldn't really use this as your working directory or your config folder as your working directory. So we're going to copy this, and let's just make a couple of folders inside here. The first one we're going to do is going to say new folder, and dump that in, so GAMConfig. And the second one we're going to do is GAMWork. Okay. So we've got GAMConfig and GAMWork and GAMADV. Perfect. So now we're going to make GAMWork the installation and path directory. Okay. So it gives you instructions here. Go to Control Panel, click on System, Advanced System Settings, Environment Variables. So let's go into this. So I'm just going to push Start menu and start typing Control. Open Control Panel there. Okay. Then it wants us to go into System. Normally I would change this to small icons here, and then we can go into System like that. Then it wants to go to Advanced System Settings, and then under Path, under System Variables. Okay, so Advanced System Settings is on the right-hand side here. And I'm going to zoom in here, and we're going to go to Environment Variables, and you've got this thing called Path. So under Path, under System Variables, we're going to click Edit, and if GAMXTD3 is already in this path, you're going to skip this. Otherwise, we're going to push this as a new path inside here. So let's edit that. Right now you see there's nothing in there, so we're going to say New, and we're going to paste that in. Okay, so we've added that one in, and we're going to push OK. So now over here, we've done, this is ready. We've clicked new, we've entered that, we pushed OK. So now we've pushed OK, we're now going to click new here. And this is a variable name. So the variable name is going to be this. Okay, and the variable value is going to be that. Now, if you've put it onto a D drive or anything else like that, please make sure you put your own thing there. And if you don't want to copy and paste, you can obviously say browse. And you can go to this PC, and you can go to C drive, and you can go to whatever you want. Okay, so we're just going to push OK. And now you see the variable is in here. So now we just have to click OK. OK again, and exit the control panel. Okay. So at this point, you should restart command prompt so that it's updated with the environment variables. Okay, so I actually haven't opened up command prompt yet. Let's just open up command prompt. And we are there. So we're going to go into the C drive and we're going to go into the GAM Advanced folder. So CD / gets us back to C drive, CD, and GAM. And I just push tab after that to autocomplete and push enter. And I'm actually in that directory now. So if I go and say here, GAM, and I'm reading from this part over here, GAMConfig, drive directory, C drive, GAMWork verify. So I'm going to say GAM config, and then drive _ dir space C drive / GAMWork verify. And obviously, once again, if you've changed any of these paths, please use your own path. Wait 2 seconds for it to create. And a whole lot of stuff has been done now. So let's just go back to the top here. And it says here, it has initialized that. It has done all of these results. The cache directory is going to be there. The client secrets is going to be there. The config directory is going to be there. So all of these things all happen using one little command that we typed over there. And this will be down in your resources as well. So please just use that command to do it. Okay, so following on from this, we're doing quite well so far. Okay, we're going to verify the installation and we're going to say dir and then %, GAMCFG, so it's config, directory, % again. And if you don't remember what this actually is, this is what we actually put into the control panel and put as the variable. If I go into the control panel here and I go to system again and go to advanced system settings, environment variables, and there, GAMCFGDIR, and that is the config directory. Okay, so that's actually what we're looking for. And we're going to say, please find me the config directory. And I push enter, and you see that it's found it over here. And there it is, GAMConfig, GAMCache, and the auth 2. Okay, so now what we're actually going to do is we're going to get GAM actually installed. Okay, so they're saying here, if you're running on GAM that doesn't have a browser, so if you're running on Linux or Linux, and you are running just on a command line, you wouldn't be able to actually have a browser. So you'd have to copy and paste things into a browser so that it actually can authenticate. So we can say, if you were on that, you would say no browser is true, okay? But right now we can actually start creating our project. So we can say GAM create project and dump that in. I didn't like it. Let's actually just type GAM create project. Let me just zoom in a little bit so this is easier for you to read. Okay, enter. Just going to push this off to the side. Okay, so there's a couple of errors that's actually happened here. It says warning, config file, GAMConfig. The client secrets was not found. And then the auth 2 was not found. And the auth 2 service JSON file also was not found. So all of those are perfectly acceptable because we haven't created them yet. What we're going to do is we're actually going to now connect to your Google Workspace using a admin address. Okay, so it says either enter your Google Workspace admin or GCP project manager email address authorized to manage the project. Okay, so I'm going to do admin@taminggsuite.com, push enter, and it says here, your browser's been opened. Now, if you don't have a browser on your machine, you can actually highlight all of this and copy this into the browser, and you'll get to the same place. So I'm going to say allow on this one, and it now says, being completed, you can close your browser. Okay? And what you'll see is it's starting to actually create the project over here. Now, every time you create a project, it will give it a unique name. And I've actually connected to GAM a couple of times, either from my account, for my own reseller purposes. For this course, I've connected a couple of times. I've connected on Ubuntu, on Windows, on Google Cloud Console. And every single time I have to do this, I'm doing it for you from scratch. But normally what I would do would just be copy the auth2 JSON files and the auth2 text and the client secrets and put them into folders. So I wouldn't have to do this each time. But lucky for you, I'm doing this each time. But anyway, so let's wait for this to actually finish and then we can carry on. And you see it creating all the APIs here. We're going to be able to choose what APIs we actually want to be able to use in the next couple of steps, but let's actually just let it finish. So it says it's created this project with a service account of that, okay, the service key of that. It's uploaded this JSON file. It's updated this. And it says that this is the credentials, okay? So go to this. I'm just going to copy that by right-clicking, open up a new tab, and just paste that in. Now, if you've never been to the cloud platform for Google, there's quite a few things you can do. There's APIs you can enable. If you want to get credits, most of the time you'll be able to get credits with Google Cloud products. I've got $300 credits. I'm just going to say dismiss that. Okay. So it says here, choose the desktop app or other for application type. So under application type, I'm going to choose a desktop app. And then I'm going to call this something. So I'm just going to call this GAM Windows 10 VM. Doesn't like spelling Windows. And let's say create. Okay. And now it says click on the blue create button, which I've just done, and then copy your client ID and then put that into here. So there's my client ID. I'm just going to copy that. Right click there, push enter, and then copy the client secret. I'm going to copy that and paste that in. Push enter again. Now go back to your browser and click OK to close the auth pop-up. I'm going to say OK. Okay, so your GAM project is now ready to use. We are now going to enable the actual connection. Okay, so I'm going to run GAM OAuth create. And you'll see all of the ones that have got a little star next to it are good. Otherwise, the ones that don't have a star next to you can enable by selecting all of them. Or if you just want to type 28, that'll allow it. But I'm just going to push C to continue. Say admin at taming. Sweet. Log into your account. All of these are matching the APIs. So say allow. Okay. And that says it's now created. Now what we need to do is we actually need to see if it's worked for a specific user. So they say GAM user and then they say check service account. So I'm going to say GAM user and I'm going to say Michael at tamingGSuite.com. And I'm going to say check service account. Okay, let's actually just open this. And what you'll see is that my time is the same as Google, so that's cool. And I've got the authentication, that's cool. But it's saying that all of these are failing, which is very typical. It's going to now give me the authorization to make this work. Okay, and this is the authorization. If I grab that whole thing and right click to copy it, and then open up a new tab, dump that in, push next, enter my password, push next. Okay, it now says over here that this is what's going to be added. All these client IDs with all of these specific things. So that's authorization of contacts and Data Studio and Drive and everything. I'm going to say authorize. And I've got quite a few of these because I've done this a couple of times. But anyway, let's now test and see if this works. Okay, so we've done that. And we can actually check the service account again. So let's push up arrow on that. Check the service account and maximize that. And theoretically, all of these should now pass. And if you've got to this stage and all of your stuff is passing, congratulations. We're just going to do one more test to see that it actually works. And then you are A for away. Brilliant. That is fully authorized. So now if we say GAM info domain, you should have all the information about your domain pulled from your domain via GAM. Yeah. And that's all looking good. Now, Ross has said there are a couple other things that he does recommend doing here. And I'm just going to read through them. I'm not going to actually do them here. On your GAMConfig file, you can add your custom ID. And this means that GAM doesn't have to make the extra API calls each time to do this. You can put domain in here, but that allows you to have your domain portion of your email address. Most of the time, you don't need to put your domain portion of the email address, but if you'd like to have it there. And then the time zone will convert all UTC time zones to your local time zone. That is quite an important one, so you can do that. But basically, you got GAM info domain, and then you say GAMConfig, whatever your custom ID is there, your domain, your time zone, local, and save and verify. And then it will do all of that, and that is the end of the wiki page. So if you do have any questions about this, please put it into the Q&A section below. But otherwise, let's move on. Actually, before we move on, if you do have any other ones where you'd like to install on Ubuntu or Google Cloud Shell, whatever, please look at the next couple of lessons, and you can install it like that. But if you don't want to do any of those and you're happy with Windows, perfect, then skip the next couple of lessons and go straight to the meat and potatoes. Thanks so much.